Hi, friends. We've been learning about plants and talking about why plants are so important. I have a story about a plant. It's a tree, because we all know now that trees are plants, they grow from the ground. Our story is a true story. It happened not too long ago in Africa. Let's see what happened in our story called Wangari's Trees of Peace. Wangari's Trees of Peace, a true story from Africa. Wangari lived under an umbrella of golden trees in the shadow of Mount Kenya in Africa. She watches the birds in the forest where she and her mother go to gather firewood for cooking. She helps harvest the sweet potatoes, sugar cane, and maize from the rich soil. Wangari shines at school, and when she grows tall like the trees in the forest, she wins a scholarship to study in America. 6 years later, her studies are over. Wangari returns to her Kenya home and sees a change. What has happened, she wonders. Where are the trees? Wangari sees women bent from hauling firewood miles and miles from home. She sees barren land where no crops grow. And where are the birds? Thousands of trees have been cut down to make room for buildings, but no one planted new trees to take their place. Will all of Kenya become a desert, she wonders, as her tears fall. Wangari thinks about the barren land. I can begin to replace some of the lost trees here in my own backyard, one tree at a time. She starts by planting 9 seedlings. Watching the seedlings take root gives Wangari an idea to plant more, to start a farm of baby trees, a nursery. In an open space, she plants row after row of tiny trees. Next, Wangari convinces the village women that planting trees is a good thing. She gives each one a seedling. Our lives will be better when we have trees again. You'll see, we are planting the seeds of hope. The women spread out over their villages, planting tiny trees in long rows, like a green belt stretching over the land. The government men laughed. Women can't do this, they say. It takes trained foresters to plant trees. The women ignored the laughter and kept planting. Wangari pays them a small amount for each seedling still living after 3 months, their first earnings ever. Word travels like wind rustling through leaves about the green returning to Wangari's village. Soon, other women in other villages and towns and cities in Kenya are planting long rows of seedlings too. But the cutting continues. Wangari stands as tall as an oak to protect the old trees still remaining. We need a park more than we need an office tower. The government men disagree. Wangari blocks their way. They call her a troublemaker and put her in jail. And still she stands tall. Right is right, even if you're alone. But Wangari was not alone. Talk of the trees spread all over Africa like the ripples in Lake Victoria. More women here talk and plant even more seedlings in longer and longer rows. The seedlings take root and grow tall until there are over 3 million trees where there were none before. The umbrella of green in Kenya returns. Women walk tall, their backs straight, for now they can gather firewood closer to home. The land is no longer barren. Sweet potatoes, sugarcane, and maize grow again in the rich red earth. The whole world hears of Wangari's trees and of her army of women who planted them. If you were to climb to the very top of Mount Kenya, you would see the millions of trees growing below and the green Wangari brought back to Africa. Wow, she was amazing. And the story just goes to show us how important trees and plants really are to our world. Think about it. If you have trees close to home and you don't have heat like we have heat here, right? We can just go and turn on a button, press a button, and we get heat in our house. There, they relied on wood to heat their home and to cook their food. That was their oven. The wood made a fire, and that's what they cooked on. So if there were no trees by their home anymore, they had to walk miles and miles and miles to get firewood just so they can heat their home and cook their food. And then do you remember when Wangari noticed when she came back home from America? She wondered, where are the birds? Well, where do birds live? That's right, birds live in trees. So if there's no trees for them to make their nest, they have to go someplace else. And the trees help the soil stay rich so that they can grow other plants like fruits and vegetables. So when all those trees were cut down, the air would start to get dirty, and so would the soil. The soil wouldn't be so rich, and they wouldn't be able to plant as much food as they would need to plant in order to survive. Now, this I thought was really interesting because look, she's planting, but she's not planting a seed. She's planting a seedling. The seedling started as a seed, but it takes a long time for a seed to grow into a plant, especially a tree. And they needed those trees as quickly as possible. So she was able to buy trees that were already starting to grow. And you can go to a gardening store or even Home Depot or Lowe's, and you can buy plants that have already started to grow. And then you can take them home and replant them in the ground or pretty flower pots, just like Wangari did in the story. Wow, I'm really glad that Wangari realized how important trees are and plants are to her community and helped her community grow back strong and better than before by coming up with this idea to plant more trees. Anytime that we cut down a tree, we should plant another tree, because if we don't, eventually there'll be no trees left. And trees are important because we use them for so many different things. We can use them for food, right? Some trees grow fruit, apple trees, orange trees. We use them for shade on a hot day. Some places use them for fuel, for fires, so they can cook or stay warm. They're home to animals, birds and squirrels, among other animals like raccoons and possums. They have so many uses. They give us fresh, clean air because they take in the bad air and recycle it and reuse it as food for themselves and then release oxygen into the air. So trees and all plants are so very important, and I hope that you'll treat them kindly.